All right, here we are, hour number 2 on a Monday. Chris Brown, Steve Tasker, and Bills reporter Maddy Glab in studio with us to go over the latest installment of Mock Draft Watch on BuffaloBills.com. It's there for your viewing and reading pleasure all throughout the pre-draft process. This is 4.0 that was installed over the weekend, and it looks as though, Maddy, that the free agent departure of one Tremaine Edmunds has influenced the draftniks.
Oh, yeah, we're starting to see linebackers pop up, which we have seen linebackers here and there, but it hasn't been consistent. And this trend is starting to be more consistent than it has been since free agency started. So we'll see if this next round of mock drafts that I track that's going to be released on Friday has even more linebackers. But, yeah, you're starting to see maybe some positions take shape, I want to say. Starting to see maybe the writing on the wall of what the Bills could want to go after, because really up until free agency, you have no idea.
Yeah,
and so now with free agency, in the middle of free agency, I should say, you're starting to see what this roster is going to look like, which means you have a better idea of the holes heading into the NFL draft at the end of April.
The further we get down, this is before, yesterday is before, so the Harris signing. So even so, you just said before we came on, fewer and fewer running backs getting mocked to the Bills as we get further into free agency.
So overall, I've tracked 88 mock drafts. In this latest mock draft watch 4.0, we had 12 mock drafts. So we're releasing these once a week now leading up to the NFL draft. And of those 12, the favorite position this time, which we've seen a lot of running backs, really just Bijan Robinson, but running back has been the favorite position quite a bit. Offensive line has been the favorite position. Offensive line this time around was the favorite position, combining tackles and interior offensive linemen. 4 offensive linemen were mocked to the Bills. So that's the most popular position. Second most popular was linebacker, being mocked to the Bills twice, and then safety and defensive back I put together because it was the same name in Brian Branch, but they were mocked to the Bills. He was mocked to the Bills twice as well. The favorite name of the latest mock draft watch 4.0, that was O'Cyrus Torrence. We only saw Bijan Robinson once, which is new.
3 times.
O'Cyrus Torrence was mocked to the Bills 3 times the 12 that I tracked.
I do find that interesting because I was trying to look at the dates as to when a lot of these mocks came out, and they were last week, right as free agency was, the first day when deals could become official. And, the Bills did sign Connor McGovern, who was also a guard primarily, right at the start of free agency. And yet some people still took O'Cyrus Torrence in their mock drafts for Buffalo. The thing that, I don't know, maybe they're aware of this or not, but usually the Bills like offensive linemen with some position flex. And most of the people that, cover the draft and the prospects in the pool will tell you that O'Cyrus Torrence is a guard only. He is not a center. He's not a guy with tackle flex. Not that that's a bad thing. If he can be an all-pro guard, who the hell cares if he can play another position?
Yeah,
but
he played.
I find that interesting because more often than not, the Bills look for guys that offer position flex. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you've seen that quite a bit. And since we're talking about O'Cyrus Torrence, we wanted to break a couple of these guys down. So we'll just start with O'Cyrus Torrence since we've kind of talked about him a little bit. We're also going to talk linebacker. But, he's 6'5", 330. This is a bigger guy. He played right guard throughout college. He played his first 3 seasons at the University of Louisiana before transferring to Florida. He followed his college football coach over there. He did not give up a sack in his career. That's pretty crazy. When you turn on the tape for him, his strength within his hands really shows up on tape. He's got really strong hands. His hands, 11 1/4 inches is what they measured at the combine for him. He's got a wide body that can pretty much move people out of the way. That's one thing that you also see on tape with him is he can turn people around at will, kind of moving and paving a way for his running backs to come through and the offense to take off at Florida. He's blocked for a mobile quarterback. Josh Allen is the quarterback of the Bills, so he kind of knows, not the same system, but he's been with a mobile quarterback. He can stay in his blocks for a long period of time. That's another thing that I noticed on film. He can hold his blocks for a while because of those strong hands. Per PFF, he was penalty-free in 2022. That's what you want out of an offensive lineman. And per NFL.com, he held his own against Jalen Carter. I didn't watch much tape of him against Jalen Carter, but NFL.com thinks he did a good job. Sometimes the quickness does not show up on tape. There's not a lot of bend to him, I believe, so maybe it's a feet thing. Maybe it's using your feet a little bit more. Maybe that's something that could be brought along once he gets into the NFL.
The thing with his feet is he is flat-footed. He has almost no arch to his foot. But actually there are some scouts that see that as an advantage because with his entire foot on the ground, they believe in pass pro he can actually anchor better because more of his foot surface is on the ground. So when he anchors down, it's over. And we just saw it in that highlight against Georgia and Jalen Carter. He's one-on-one with Jalen Carter, and he's just locking him up, and he's not moving backwards at all.
Yeah, now Jalen Carter gave him a bull rush. It wasn't like a side-to-side thing, so you really get a chance to see him move laterally and try to stay on the guy.
But that's an example of his anchor.
But he can anchor. And you're right, Maddie, he played his entire career. He played a little bit in 2019, most of 2019 at left guard, but the other 3 years of his career, he was a right guard. And he never gave up a sack. Now, he played 3 years at Louisiana Lafayette.
Wild.
And never gave up a sack. So he said, listen, I need to step up. So he goes to Florida, played in the SEC to get a little bit better competition his last year. He still never gave up a sack. And that's playing, Georgia and Clemson and all those jokers. 6'5", 330. What do the Bills draft? Traits. I mean, that guy is... Yeah, he's going to be a first-round offensive lineman, and he may last to the Buffalo Bills because of just what
guard
you said.
only.
That may be the reason he's there at 27.
And I feel like
because he's only a guard.
One thing you have to teach offensive linemen coming into the NFL that maybe isn't perfect. I'm not saying that he's perfect at this, but hand placement is a huge thing once you get into the NFL. And based on what I read and based on what I watched, it seems like he's there with his hand placement, and that's a huge strength for what he can offer.
All right, so let's take a look at the linebacker position because you mentioned that that's gaining steam for Bills in mock drafts, and we understand why. Edmonds is out the door. Who are the names that are popping up the most at the linebacker position when they are mocking linebackers to Buffalo?
Linebacker, we've seen Jack Campbell once, who has been a favorite name of some media members, I want to say, including myself, based on how he spoke at the NFL scouting combine. It just seemed like he would be an immediate culture fit in Buffalo. We've also seen Trenton Simpson pop up as well at linebacker. So those are two names in the latest mock draft watch that has popped up. Drew Sanders was a name in Mock Draft Watch 3.0 that popped up out of Arkansas, another linebacker. So you're seeing at 27, the Bills could have the pick of the best linebacker, whoever they deem the best linebacker in the NFL draft might be available for them. Trenton Simpson is right there, number 148 ranked, but the highest for linebacker. Drew Sanders and Jack Campbell, 1, 2, 3. The Bills might not list them exactly like that, but all three of them have now been mocked to the Bills. Jack Campbell is a name that we've seen in the second round, but it looks like he's popping into the first round. This is the first time that I've seen his name be attached to the Buffalo Bills. And we can talk about Jack Campbell. I mean, he's 6'5", he's 249. This is a big linebacker. He's a senior, so has a lot of time on task at Iowa. Played in 43 games, started in 28. His athleticism score, Next Gen Stats is now doing scores for a lot of these prospects, and he had the highest athleticism score among linebackers at 89. He ran a 4.65 40. He could have played D1 basketball. He won the Dick Butkus Award as the nation's top linebacker in 2022. He also won the Academic Heisman Award, so this guy is a smart player. He had over 100 tackles in each of his last 2 seasons and 4 interceptions over the last 2 seasons, 5 over the last 3 seasons. When you watch the tape on him, He's a good coverage linebacker. He's got length to him, which helps him play the position, especially in today's NFL. He can play the pass. He can play the run. He's a versatile running back. He's got good awareness to him. He looks like that textbook linebacker. You feed him something. This is what you need to do. This is the defense that we play. And I think he's the type of player that's going to be able to regurgitate that and put it on film in his first NFL season. He lacks the burst on tape, though. There's not that crazy quickness or speed to him. So it depends on what you want. Do you want a textbook guy, or do you want a freak that stands out on film and has a lot of pop to him?
Yeah, I think most coaches will tell you they want a guy who is in the spot he's supposed to be all the time. If not all the time, there's a good reason why not. And one of the things I saw about Campbell was that they highlighted what he does after the ball is snapped on a pass play when he drops into coverage. When you're in zone, we always hear about players who can keep their eyes on the quarterback.
He does a great job of that.
He keeps his eyes on the quarterback, but also understands what he's supposed to be looking at. So he'll back off. As soon as he realizes it's a pass, he'll turn one way or the other. He'll find where the receivers are, then find the quarterback again and extrapolate the information about where he should be and where he shouldn't be in a zone coverage. It just shows a lot of awareness, a lot of confidence that most guys just get mesmerized by when the quarterback, they just watch him, and when he looks one way, they kind of go that way, and then when he looks the other way, he goes the other way. He showed some great discipline in the fact that when the quarterback looked that way, he looked that way to see where the quarterback was looking, and there was nobody over there. He had the discipline to hang where he was at and knowing the quarterback was going to come back because he had already checked on the two-man route on his side. He ended up getting an interception because of it. But his ability to process all that so fast.
Yes. It's a little crazy for a guy who hasn't came into the NFL yet. For a guy who's played 4 years in college football. Also got to listen to him at the NFL Scouting Combine, and within the first 5 minutes of listening to him, this is a player that you go, oh my gosh, he would definitely fit in with this team, within the culture, within the DNA. He just seems like he has that type of mindset, mentality, blue-collar work ethic that Sean McDermott loves.
Right, and when you are that instinctive, even if you're only running a 4.65, your instincts get you to places faster, and you can make more plays as a result. And I think you can recognize that on tape with him. The other guy is a Clemson product.
Yeah, Trenton Simpson is a Clemson product. He's a junior, so he's played a few years in college football and is coming out of college football this season. His athleticism score per Next Gen Stats was third amongst linebackers in this group of linebackers. He ran a 4.43 40. Guys, this guy is super fast and quick, and that pops out on tape when you watch him. He's got the burst to him. He's got the speed. He has close-in speed. They used him as a blitzer quite a bit. He had 12 and a half sacks in 3 seasons at Clemson. He played in 37 games, started in 27, had 164 tackles in 3 seasons. He's got good physicality. He's got raw talent. The physical traits are there when you watch this guy on film, but it seems like he needs to get some more textbook traits. So Jack Campbell and him are quite different, and this guy is the raw guy, but he might need to learn a little bit more. Jack Campbell knows his stuff, but he doesn't have the burst or the pop to him like Trenton Simpson does. So he could clean up some things like the way he tackles. I think he uses his arms a lot when he tackles. It doesn't look like he's necessarily using his entire body sometimes, but he looks very impressive, and he looks like maybe he could be molded into the type of linebacker that you want him to be. Are the Bills going to, if they choose to draft a linebacker in the first or second round, who do they want? Do they want somebody like Jack Campbell who kind of has it all but maybe doesn't have the quickness and speed? Or do they want somebody like Trenton Simpson who is that raw talent, that wow guy when you turn on his film, but maybe he needs to be molded a little bit? Another thing about Trenton Simpson, his father served 17 overseas tours with the U.S. Army Rangers. So this is a guy who's probably been brought up in an Army-type disciplined household.
Yeah. Now, the thing about him, he doesn't have the physical traits that the other two do, like the Campbells.
Yeah, he's 6'2", 235.
6'2", 235. He's built a little bit more like Bernard is, that the Bills picked last year, except he runs a 4.3.
4.43.
That's
crazy.
fast. It's really fast. And so he's going to be able to make up for some, even if he takes a wrong step one direction, he's going to make up for it quickly. Instincts and all of that stuff are crucial. And you're right. Athletically, he's at the top of this class.
I will say this, though, about Campbell. Campbell doesn't have the 40 time, but what he does have, he had a great three-cone drill. He ran a 6.74 in the three-cone. Anything under 7 seconds for a linebacker is considered high-end. He didn't run just sub-7. He ran 6.74, which is an ultimate agility drill.
Right.
The three-cone.
And he had the #1 athleticism score out of the other linebackers.
So, I mean, while his 40 time in a straight line may not be elite, his side-to-side range, especially when you watch him on tape and then you look at him on the watch, whether it's the 20-yard shuttle where he ran a 4.24 or it's the three-cone where he ran a 6.74, he's got elite agility and change of direction skills, which I feel are more important than the straight line speed at the linebacker position. It's different if you're talking wide receiver or corner or something like that, but those numbers, I think, put him into the first-round conversation.
Yeah.
Before we move on, because we're getting to the bottom of the hour, I want to get to this guy before we go away. We're talking about all these guys that have all this upside and some question marks, but they seem great on tape. The one guy that has been linked to interest by the Bills is the huge tackle from Ohio State.
Oh, my gosh.
Dawand Jones, 6'8", 374 pounds.
Arms that go for days.
Right. He's enormous. He
huge.
He played in 27 games at Ohio State and gave up a total of 4 sacks. 3 of them were in his junior year last year. This year he gave up 0 sacks playing right tackle.
Yeah.
He is a tackle amongst tackles. He is, I don't know. He to me, and I haven't seen the guy.
His teammate's going to go before him. Paris Johnson, the left tackle, would go higher in the round.
Right.
This is a guy that's really good, but he could be there down at the bottom of round one.
You envision him as a right tackle. That's what he played in college. He is huge. He looks huge on film. He looks like he could literally eat some of these college players for lunch. Players would literally fold in half once he made contact because of his size and his higher pad level and his arm length. His hand size is an immediate strength against a lot of defensive linemen, 11 and 5/8 inches. So you would think of a guy with this size and stature as somebody who might be a little bit slow, but that's not the case at all. He's got good movement to him. He looks off balance at times because of his size, not moving with his hands, arms, and feet all in unison. This shows up in how he blocks and what his blocks look like sometimes, which you can't hate him too much for that because he is 6'8", and it's hard to operate, comfortably and in unison with all the parts of your body when you're that tall and when you're that big. But watching reps of what he did on tape in college, it's wild. Most of the defensive linemen did not stand a chance against him because of his size and because he would just put his arms up high because he's so tall, and guys would just fall. They would just fall.
Right, and the thing is, with that kind of arm length, he would usually get his hands on the pass rusher before they got their hands on him to either rake him away or rip through or what have you. And because of that arm length, he would just, even if he did not have the same agility or athletic ability as the oncoming pass rusher, once he got his hands on them, he would just steer them wide of the pocket and make them take a wide circle around the pocket, and they'd never get home in time, and that's what usually made him effective. But you're right, it's the bend. When you have these taller players, they worry, scouts worry, like, can he sit, can he bend, and can he target with his hands properly? Because he is so high, you don't want it to almost skim off the guy's shoulder pads because he's got a half a foot on the guy he's going against.
You can see an edge rusher dipping their shoulder and coming up underneath and him whiffing on him and getting him off the edge. He is, I think, really intriguing because he's a guy that would come in and all of a sudden, he would compete with Spencer Brown at right tackle right away. Absolutely, I think he's a professional offensive lineman waiting to be drafted. He's going to line up and play whoever gets him, and he's a guy that could play right tackle for 15 years. Now, I don't know. The only thing about him would be the unknowns. Does he have a weight problem? Does he work hard? Does he work at it? Now, he hung in there at Ohio State, did not play his first 2 years. Played like 3 games one year, 4 games the next year. Finally got on the field as a junior. Now, you can imagine at Ohio State, some pretty good guys ahead of him first couple of years. But he wasn't a kid that came in and all of a sudden he's the guy. So he kind of hung in there for 2 years. I don't know what that says about him, whether he wasn't good enough and had to develop, had to get some things under control, didn't adjust to college life. There's a lot of question marks that we don't know the answer to. But they'll talk to him, and they'll find out what kind of guy he is. They'll talk to Ohio State guys. What kind of guy is he? Why didn't he play for 2 years? He still weighed 350 as a freshman, or 330 as a freshman, even if he gained weight. Why wasn't he on the field? That kind of thing. That's why the other guy's probably going to go. The left tackle will go before he does.
Yeah.
But until you find out about Dawand and why a guy with those tools wasn't on the field his first 2 years, if you get satisfactory answers, he looks like a guy that's going to be a professional football player for at least a decade, and a really good one, if that.
He's got the traits.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's a lot of stuff we don't know about him, but there's a lot of stuff you see that, man, it's easy to like him.
Okay, so before we let you go, Maddie, when is the next edition of Mock Draft Watch going up? 5.0.
Next edition 5.0 is going to go out Friday morning. So every Friday or Saturday leading up until the NFL draft at the end of April, we will have these released weekly now because they're coming out.
They're coming fast and furious, yeah. All right, so Friday, BuffaloBills.com is where you want to check Mock Draft 5.0. Thanks for bringing us up to speed, Maddie. Appreciate it as always.
Definitely.
We will catch up with you again before we get to the NFL draft here at the end of April.